Newcastle taking on Liverpool today at 3 p.m. Eastern at St James's Park. There's been a lot of noise surrounding Newcastle this past couple of weeks surrounding Isak. This is what Eddie Howe had to say in a press conference earlier this week.
To ask you firstly about Alexander Isak, and has anything changed over the last couple of days with his situation?
No, there's been no change.
So he again won't be part of your squad. Is that your expectation?
Yeah, no, he won't be part of the squad for this weekend's game.
And is it still your hope that he can be reintegrated into the squad, even if that is dependent on him?
Yeah, of course. He's contracted to us. He's our player. My wish is that he would be playing on Monday night with us, but he won't be, and that's regrettable at this moment. But he, 100%, you know, I want to see him back in a Newcastle shirt.
I wonder how you're dealing with this unique situation with Alex. How are you dealing with it personally?
I think, of course, these situations are far from ideal, as in talking press-wise, and a lot of the attention has gone on to that rather than the team and our preparation. But in terms of, as soon as I leave here, I'm back with the team. I'm back preparing, training, taking training, delivering meetings, speaking to individual players, trying to get the group in the best frame of mind possible. So the job never changes. Just the outside perception is, of course, one that's totally different to normal.
Newcastle manager Eddie Howe there talking about the whole Alexander Isak situation. Tony, how do you think he's handled it these past couple of weeks? Because I feel like in press conferences, that's all he gets asked about.
Yeah, look, I mean, he's the face of the club, right? The managers are always the first point of reference, right? When we have issues like this, I think he's been outstanding. I like him in general, right? I'm a big fan of Eddie Howe in general, and I think the way he's gone through this, really difficult, one of the premier strikers in all of world football. He said time and time again, he wants him in a Newcastle uniform, but he can't use him. I imagine this is not all Eddie Howe's decision. This comes from above. But as far as if you want to give him a grade, an A+ for me, for Eddie Howe, and how he's really, he's not avoided the question, because you can't, right? You have to answer it, and there's only so many ways you can answer it, and I think he's done a good job of kind of easing things. I wonder, though, at some point in the dressing room, how this whole thing kind of turns around a little bit.
Yeah, I agree with you, Tone. He really has sort of polished it up a bit, and I think that just speaks to him as sort of a mediator in this whole, I'd say, debacle at this point. He's sort of trying to tame tensions, but also manage to be like, hey, Isak, you're still part of this squad, man. We can do this, because if you push the needle too far in the other direction, you have this really sour relationship across the board, and you're stuck with a player on your roster that is unusable and will not play for you.
Think about training, right? There's training and a game plan with Isak, and then all of a sudden without him, right? Like there's two different scenarios he's managing throughout the week, and it can't be easy for him.
No, definitely. And I feel like, is there going to be a moment where Eddie Howe just snaps in a press conference? Like, I'm sick of all these Isak situations. We've got a game to play. But moving over to our fast track to victory presented by Xfinity, they just signed Jacob Ramsey. He came from Aston Villa for $54 million. Cupo, what can he bring to this Newcastle side?
Absolutely. He brings one Champions League experience, and on the top of that, you get a creative player who's really good in the width. He brings depth to that midfield. He's good in the 8 role where he can drift more centrally. I think what they get with him is also a really elite dribbler, somebody that can eat 1v1s. He adds a lot to their attack, can string balls together between the attack and the midfield. So he could essentially shift into being a focal point for this team.
Yeah, obviously a new player for Newcastle. He's not expected to start today. But let's take a look at our all-22 predicted lineup. One player who is looking to be back is Gravenberch. Tony, he missed last game from suspension. How important is he for this Liverpool side?
Yeah, vitally important. He had a great season last year, dominating in the midfield. Of course, will allow Wirtz and Salah and Gakpo to go do their thing and get forward and be cover and balance. Will also allow Szoboszlai to get to the top of the box, right, where he likes likes to operate. There was some rumor because of the right back issues at Liverpool that Szoboszlai might play at right back. Gomez looks to be fit now. So Arne Slot has his first sort of decision-making period right now with some injuries at the moment. Who knows what they'll do in the transfer window. Ekitike up top. I know we're talking, this is the Isak derby here, if you will, in a way, but it's hard to overlook what Ekitike did in that first game and the way he seemingly has fit into what Arne Slot wants to do.
Florian Wirtz, Cupo, let's talk about him, because in match day 1 he looked a bit shaky, trying to get used to the Premier League. He now needs to perform in this game to justify that price
any
tag.
player of that stature you expect to perform immediately. Unfortunately, that's not always reality. Some players take a little bit longer than others to acclimate, but all eyes are on him now, right? And as the match days go on, where you see him sort of these lackluster performances, there's not going to be an appetite or a patience for him. I think this is going to be his time. He's going to need to step up here.
What else, when we're looking at this, what else are we kind of seeing that stands out to you?
Yeah, looking at it here, obviously no McAllister on this side of things, which leads me to look at the midfield, right, for Newcastle. Tonali, right, coming back after last year's, whatever we call it, suspension or whatever. Guimaraes has been outstanding. Joe Linton's been a revelation for 18 months under Eddie Howe, who was playing as a more advanced player for the beginning part of his time at Newcastle, now playing a little bit deeper. Gordon, of course, playing in the number 9, wearing the number 10 jersey. That's not his role. This is what I was talking about earlier with what's going on with Isak, is that he's had to kind of mix things up, and they don't have any other true real striker. The problem getting this late in the window, yeah, you have plan B and a backup plan. You just don't know what's going to happen, and I think Gordon has done a really good job in that position, just being asked to do a role that's really not something that's normal to him.
Quick predictions from you guys. Do you think this outside noise will affect this Newcastle side from Isak, or this Isak problem?
I think it's hard not to. You can obviously say, oh, we're turning it off and tuning it out, but when you're being impacted because he's not participating and this is kind of the plan going forward, I would be a little bit irritated as a player, quite frankly. You're going to do the best that you can with what you have, but you also have to feel a little bit let down.
Do you think Newcastle will get a goal on the scoreboard this game? They didn't last week.
I'm not particularly optimistic with the way that Liverpool look and are set to play. So if they do, it'll be extraordinarily lucky, in my opinion.
Yeah, look, the only thing I will add is that first match day at home, right, St. James's Park, and everything that's going on. Just imagine what that atmosphere is going to be like, which may, you know how that propels players, right? So I'm going to go with Jeff Shreves, with what he said earlier, because I picked it earlier today. I said a draw, a score draw in this one, only because that first match day, and you know how people are just itching to get back to games and get back in their home stadium.
So a 1-1?
I actually said 2-2 this morning. Jeff kind of, when he said a draw, he kind of led me to 1-1. But this morning I said 2-2. So I'll just stick with that.
I'm going to go with you with 2-2.
Okay. Well, for more insight on this match, we're going to be bringing in our betting expert, Buckets, to see what he thinks you should be betting on ahead of today's game. Buckets, hi, how are you?
Good morning, guys. I'm doing well. How are you today?
We're all great, thank you. What have you got for us ahead of this Liverpool-Newcastle game?
I've got 2 bets for all of us here, but it's 2 things that have now hit in the last 6 head-to-head matches between these 2 sides. Starting with the player prop, I'm looking at Mohamed Salah to score or to have an assist here. It's playable at -130 for some reason. I don't think this should ever really be a playable line. We have seen him have an assist in his last 6 league matches against Newcastle, going back the last 3 seasons, and he's also had 4 goals as well. So 11 goal contributions over the last 6 head-to-head. It doesn't really matter if they're playing at Anfield or at St. James's Park. Salah shows up in this matchup, and he tends to do really well when playing this Newcastle side, like he does against most teams, to be fair. Then for my match prop, I'm looking at Liverpool over 1.5 team total, which means Liverpool has to score 2 goals, so it fits with the 2-2 draw narrative. Big fan of that. Liverpool has scored 2 or more goals in the last 6 league head-to-head matches against Newcastle as well. I do think there's going to be goals in this game. Liverpool have conceded now in 10 matches straight across all competitions, which included the Community Shield and friendlies and games last season here. But I just think Liverpool have too much attacking talent and Newcastle have too many distractions going on to not see Liverpool get 2 here.
Buckets, what else have you got for us? I mean, we're tracking this. You realize I'm going to keep you honest.
I know you're going to keep me
What if I
honest.
start betting and you lose me money, Buckets?
My advice to you is just bet responsibly. I know it's cliche. I know that everyone has to say that, but you got to make sure that you are betting responsibly and betting money that you are capable of losing in a worst case scenario. Ultimately, we are trying to all
So you're
predict the
loaning me
future.
some money?
I'll tell you what, I'll Venmo you. I will Venmo you whatever you lose on this game, but if it wins, you've got to make sure to tip me when that hits.
Okay, fair.